and there are some additions. Ken Holland is the GM of the Edmonton Oilers. He joins us by phone. Kenny, happy trade deadline to you and yours. How you doing?
Good. Nice to be with you guys.
Thanks for coming on.
Can I, for most of my adult life, when we've approached this day, normally the first question is, well, what's Ken Holland doing? Who's he gonna bring in? What is he gonna buy? Does it feel good to be back in that saddle as a buyer?
Yeah, for sure. You know, obviously, a lot of years in Detroit, we were a buyer, and then my last 3 years in Detroit, it was a seller. So, way more fun to be a buyer. Obviously, to be a buyer means that you've the first 60 games you've played good enough that you think your team has the potential to be a playoff team and beyond. So I was happy to be a buyer again. I missed it.
We were talking in the opening segment of the show about your team and wondering how much. Listen, I want to get to Mike Green. I want to get to Andreas Athanasiou. I thought you made some great pickups, but did the 3-2-1 mark and the way you guys played without Connor McDavid reassure you that you were doing the right thing going into this deadline?
Yeah, yeah, I guess absolutely. I mean, as great as Connor is, you're never really sure when you lose a player of that caliber how your team is going to react. And certainly Leon Draisaitl stepped up big time along with a whole lot of other players. That line was a big story with Leon, Nugent Hopkins, and Tyler Yamamoto, and up and down the lineup. It was a real team effort. So, I would say that, from the start of the season, the coaching staff have asked our players to compete on every day at practice and do some things that they believe that our team would win. And over the first 60 games, we've played our way into a position where we're in a real race with the rest of the teams, or 4 other teams in our division, for a playoff spot and a wild card. They've played at a high level. They've competed. And going into the trade deadline, I was hopeful that we could make a move or two to try to give us a little bit of a boost, and I feel good today about what we were able to accomplish.
Ken Holland, GM of the Oilers, here on Tim and Sid. Ken, do you believe in the message that sending guys into a room can send to your own group? Is that overblown at times? A team watching new additions walk in, and they're maybe puffing their chest out a bit more than they were. That sense of confidence from the GM to the team, is that real, or is that a little overblown, do you think?
I think it can be real, but I also think you never really know. You never, when your team has played at a certain level, you've obviously got good chemistry and good harmony. Everybody's got a role, and adding 3 players, all of a sudden you can have put people in different roles. So it can make your team better, but it also can upset your chemistry. So it's a bit of a guessing game. If you look at our team, we think we're 2-3 weeks away from having James Neal back. We think we're 2-3 weeks away from having Nygaard back. They're both left wingers. In Athanasiou and Ennis, they're both left shots that can play left wing. So there's an opportunity there for those players to step in while there's some injured people. So, Athanasiou was done not only for this year but for going forward. And in Ennis and Green, they're rentals, and I hope that they can come in and kind of mesh right in, and we can kind of continue to have the good chemistry that we've had to this point in time.
Ken Holland, GM of the Edmonton Oilers, joining us here on Tim and Sid. Andreas Athanasiou. We know his speed, and I know your coach is going to have something to say about this, but do you think he can jump on a line with Connor McDavid, and you have 2 of the fastest guys that I've ever seen?
You know what? We've had lots of those internal conversations. I think when you have a line, it's more than speed. It's chemistry. It's chemistry. Yeah. Reading off of people. You need different elements. When you've got the makeup of a line combination. So certainly we're hoping that they can build some chemistry, but if not with him, with Leon, with Ryan Nugent Hopkins, I think he's a talented player. Had 30 goals a year ago, and it's been a tough year for him this year in Detroit. I'm hoping that what we've got going on in Edmonton right now with the personnel, with the chemistry, how everybody's digging in with the coaching staff, seeing what the job that Dave Tippett has done in bringing building our team, that Andreas will join us and get back to the level that he was at a year ago.
Ken Holland here on Tim and Sid. Ken, full disclosure, my co-host Tim McAuliffe and myself, we had a conversation earlier in the show about Andreas Athanasiou. I made the point that the minus 45 is concerning for him on the year. Tim's point was I'm nuts, and he's on a bad team at the time, and it's not a reflection of who he is really as an all-around player. Now,
just a caveat that you got to throw in there.
No, it's a caveat. But I'm just saying that's the point I took. And I know some of your fan base is looking at the minus 45 going, what's he really going to bring us? How would you respond to that?
Well, first off, I would say that certainly that minus 45 is probably a reflection to it. It's not a be-all and end-all stat, but there's certainly something. The stat has to mean something, or else we wouldn't keep that stat. So he obviously hasn't played very good defensively this year. I would say to you, I'm believing and hoping that it's an off year. He got off to a slow start. He started to press. The minuses started to add up, and it's been a tough year. Obviously, I've watched the Red Wings fairly close from afar. I've been with the Red Wings for 36 years, so I know it's been a tough year there for their team and for a lot of players. So I'm hoping and believing that coming to Edmonton to a new opportunity, that he's going to get back to more of the level of a year ago. Certainly, he hasn't played. He didn't play to that level this year. So, is it a real stat? I think it's a real stat, but it's a fresh opportunity in Edmonton.
Fair enough.
Let's talk about another guy that you know pretty well, and Mike Green. What do you think you can get from him at the age of 34? Well,
first off, you probably need for sure 7 and maybe even 8 defensemen. If you qualify for the playoffs and you go and you plan to go deep. So on the short term, as we play our last 20 games, I'm hoping he can come in and give us a boost as we try to push for the playoffs. And then as we go along, if you're able to make it, you got to have depth. And he gives us a dimension. He can skate. I think Mike's in his mid-30s. He can still skate, and he still has an ability to pass the puck. In a league where speed and tape-to-tape passes from the defense to the forwards is very, very important. Those are his. That's what he's best at. He shoots right. He can play on the power play if we need him. Cluffbaum obviously is on the power play, so he gives us more dimensions. He gives us depth on the back end, and he's a guy that can still skate in the league. That skating's important.
And in terms, Ken, of your younger D, I was looking at a move like this when you bring in a guy like Green, who's so versed power play wise throughout his career. Maybe not as much lately, but throughout his career. What can he teach a Darnell Nurse and Ethan Bear, or some of these younger guys that you have? Are you hoping that rubs off on your younger core as well?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think this time of the year, veterans are really, really important. Certainly, you said, Caleb Jones is a young player that's 21, 22 years of age. Ethan Bear is a young player, and Mike's been around a long, long time. So, his presence. If the coach, if Dave decides to put him in a pair with Caleb Jones, he's a veteran player. He's able to play with Caleb Jones. If the coach wants him to go up and play with Cluffbaum or with Darnell, he's comfortable moving in. So he's going to be able to play with anybody. He's a well-respected guy in the locker room. When he was in his time in Detroit and with what he's accomplished in the National Hockey League. So I think he's going to have an easy transition to our locker room. He's a good person. He cares, treats people with respect. He loves the game, and I know he's excited. I talked to him last night. I know he's excited about coming to Edmonton. And it's every game that we've got the rest of the year for our team. They're like playoff games. They're big games. They're important games, and I know he's excited to get back into playing those kind of games.
Ken Holland, Oilers GM, here on Tim and Sid. Quickly, Ken, before we let you go, because you're a hockey fan like the rest of us, what move happened today that caught your eye? What surprised you?
Well, I don't think it was any one move. What caught my eye was, there was a lot of moves, and there was a lot of big moves, and there was hockey trades, and I think, if you're somebody that decided to take the day off and stay at home and nestle in all day and watch TV and follow the activity at the trade deadline of the National Hockey League, it was a great day. It was an exciting day. Lots went on, and now over the next 4, 5, 6 weeks, up to 2.5 months, we're going to see what today means for a lot of teams. But it's not only for this year. Certainly there was some hockey trades today, so I think it was an exciting day for our industry.
Ken, we know this is as long a day as there is in your business, so we really appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this and joining us.
No problem, guys. Thank you.